Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Exchange Lab Cabana at the fantastic Cannes Lions. We're here to talk about programmatic marketing and the future of it. Is there one? My name is Charlie Crowe. I'm the founder of the Festival of Media and chairman and editor-in-chief of C Squared. And I have probably a unique perspective on this debate in the sense that I know absolutely nothing about programmatic media. In fact, I don't really know what it means. So I'm personally hoping that over the next 20 minutes or so, these illustrious panelists will be able to at least help us all understand a little bit about the definition of this industry before we even begin to think and discuss about whether or not it has a future. Before I ask the first question, I'd like to welcome our amazing panelists, and when I do so, I would like you to give some whoops and some cheers, okay, on this Tuesday morning. And the first whoop of the day goes to Mr. Nigel Gilbert, the European VP of AppNexus, ladies and gentlemen. On my immediate left, I'd like to welcome Gerhard Loh, the head of international media for Deutsche Telekom. To my right, we have our host and the founder and CEO of the Exchange Lab, Mr. James Aitken, who conveniently has his monogram below his left nipple in case I forget his name during the course of this discussion. Now on his right, we have Anthony Ryan, who's just become the global head of digital for Aegis Media, ladies and gentlemen. And last but certainly not least, we have Eric Wasserman, who is now the Chief Revenue Officer and one of the co-founders of Media Math. Okay. All right. So this is good. So thank you very much to you all for coming and supporting this, and hopefully you'll have time for some questions. So anyway, my first question to the gentleman here is, as I said at the start, I know nothing about the programmatic landscape, but I have a suspicion that we've lucked out a little bit in the choice of the panelists that we brought together today, because I suspect that you are all cogs in the same programmatic machine, right? So what I would like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, is explain to me very, very briefly in language that a hungover Englishman can understand, what exactly is your definition of programmatic first, right? And then tell me what you do within the machine, okay? And then I think at the end of that round, I think we'll have a sense of how we all fit together, and then we can discuss a little bit about the issues and the challenges that the market faces. Is that a good idea? Yes. Is that a good idea? Yes. Have one more Bloody Mary. Okay, so Nigel, AppNexus, explain it. What do you do, and how do you fit with the work of the other members of this panel?
Well, blessed or cursed to be going first here, I think, then after this introduction. I think we clearly have a market gap in Charlie not knowing a thing about this. I feel we could be growing a lot faster if he did. So I think my personal objective now is to just get him clued up, and then I think we'll all be in a better place. Firstly, my definition of programmatic. I would define that as the application of technology to the buying and selling of advertising. That would be my definition of programmatic. What does AppNexus do in that? We effectively build pipes, and we give technology to large buyers and large sellers of media, and we help them develop their businesses to evolve themselves into the world of programmatic with what we would consider to be incredibly sophisticated suite of technology.
Okay. You are a technology supplier. Is that a software as a service type of model?
Correct, we are a technology supplier. Yes, that is a software as a service model. That's exactly how we work. We don't do any buying or selling. We provide infrastructure, the next evolution of ad serving, if you will, for both buyers and sellers.
Okay. So you provide the ad service and the platforms that are then what, white labeled by agencies and by the DSPs?
This is great. He keeps feeding me the questions. It's fantastic. Yes, in some cases they do choose to white label that. For the techie-oriented folks in the room, we operate a completely open API infrastructure, which means that we have customers who white label the service. They can make it look like it is effectively their technology. They can connect it to their business systems in a very effective and seamless fashion. Yes.
Sounds like you might be a bit of a commodity there. You ever thought of? You ever thought about being your own brand and selling direct to clients and agencies?
Yeah, we're going to get monogram shirts next as well. Yeah, but yeah, have we thought about getting our own brand and selling direct? Well, we do obviously contract agencies and sellers in terms of them becoming our customers. But no, we don't buy and sell media. That's what they do. We draw the line there so that we can enhance their business.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I think I've got it. Okay. So you're the plumbing.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Eric. So in the light of that, tell us where media math fits into this, and first of all, your definition of programmatic.
Sure, thank you. I quite like Nigel's definition of programmatic. I think it describes the means by which buyers and sellers transact in automated ways using technology. I think it's very elegant. That's the only compliment I'm going to give to you, Nigel. Media math uniquely focuses on the buy side in this equation. So I think for many years the sell side of our business has been advantaged by tools and technologies. 6 years ago when we started our business, we saw an opportunity to help the buy side to navigate what was then a reasonably sophisticated online digital environment, which today has allowed marketers a means to scale their marketing ROI across the globe in real time. So we focus on the full technology offering to marketers and to agencies. That begins with data management and it ends with the application of media to that data and of the optimization of those constituent parts.
Okay, so that would conventionally be called a demand side platform. Are you happy to accept that definition of your business?
You know, I think as with many acronyms, they grow less and less meaningful over time as they're used more and more. You know, I think at first the notion of a niche that described applications of technology to the demand side of our business to marketers was apt. I think today the environment for operating in a technology landscape that has thousands of point solutions, that has many opportunities to market to customers across channels. The moniker is probably a little hackneyed. We refer to ourselves as an operating system for media.
Okay. And in terms of you mentioned data, do you use first-party data and buy in third-party data? Or how does that work? Or do you work with data suppliers? Is that?
Yeah, I think in the effective constellation of these parts are a question for the client, where many clients sit on a great deal of information about their customers. They certainly want to be able to access that data and apply it to meaningful media interactions. The interplay between that information and suppliers of third-party information about those users and about users about whom the brand or the agency knows nothing is also a useful application. So we want to be able to provide the environment and the technology that enables those sophisticated applications.
Okay, right. Okay, so we got the plumbing, and then we got the application of the plumbing to the buy side of the business. Okay, I think. Okay, so I'm getting there. Am I being? We'll come back to that. James, tell me a bit. We all agree with, at the moment, we're all cool with your definition. I think Anthony has a challenge to that, but so I'm not going to ask you to define programmatic. We're already there. Tell me a bit more about your company and how you fit into this ecosystem.
Excellent, excellent. I shall. First of all, I think this is going to work out very well for you, Charlie, because most of your sponsors at the Festival of Media will probably be all these companies going forward as we're growing the space, and it's a transformative shift in this space of programmatic media. So
I better understand it then.
You better, mate.
Yeah, okay.
Because you need that sponsorship revenue, mate. Chop, chop. So, you know, where are we in this? Exchange Lab. Well, we're old school, I would say. Ad tech people that have been in the space for 18 plus years. And what we saw was huge consolidation in a lot of the internet titans and different ecosystems, different oceans, dare I say, that you can fish using ad tech and using programmatic media. So Exchange Lab's model is about accessing all those oceans, and there's been a tremendous amount of investment in ad tech. I saw, congratulations on the 75 million over to my right, Media Math, and that's fantastic for Exchange Lab because that means they're going to develop more tools that we can leverage for our clients to execute great performance on their advertising campaigns. So, we work with multiple DSP platforms, and we essentially have transparency across all those platforms and operate, dare I say it, a Bloomberg trading terminal to help clients with their advertising campaigns and programmatic media. So that's sort of where we sit.
Thank you. Right. So you're competing a little bit with MediaOcean.
I don't know, mate. MediaOcean? What?
Okay.
Who?
Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So technology supplier, plumbing, data management, building and understanding the demand side of the equation, a business that works across multiple technologies to give clients some sort of dashboard on their different programmatic suppliers, and you have your trading desks. So tell me how, well, first of all, tell me how you're fitting into the ecosystem here, and then tell me how the trading desks sit with the different people here sitting. Thank you. Anthony, you, and then I'm going to go to the client and we're going to see whether we really understand this.
So first of all, let me pick up on the definition. I think programmatic is, of course, about buying and selling media, but it's important to consider the broader touch points that are influencing the consumers. So it's not just about paid apertures, it's also about the experience optimization. So that's the ad, making the ad as relevant as possible. It's making the landing destinations, websites, or even social environments increasingly dynamic, so that the data that we've captured, which has been talked about already, or that we've integrated across the different systems that have been brought together with one view of the consumer across the different technology systems, is used to enrich the relevance of the communication. Because again, if all we're doing is targeting, that's not going to be meaningful to the consumer, it's just meaningful to the budget optimization. That's not a bad thing, but it's not enough. What we need to do is build the relevance to increase the likelihood of the right outcome coming from the consumer that the advertiser is paying to reach or has managed to pull into their owned environments based on historical activity to build an awareness. So again, it's very important to consider across not just the paid placements and understand that the design optimization is critical to take this from a programmatic buying paradigm to a programmatic marketing paradigm. That was the one distinction. Not that Nigel's definition was wrong, it just wasn't sophisticated enough.
Boom. To be fair, he was trying to be simplistic for me.
Well, again, maybe if your business was doing better, we'd have 6 microphones. But nonetheless, you do have a yacht, so well done. That is the measure of success in Cannes. So where do we fit in? Well, we have a team of buyers in the agency, and increasingly they are defined as the trading desk component of the agency structure. And again, that team also is responsible for advising clients on which technologies to be using to complement technology that the client has already contracted to work with, or when necessary, working with the client to restructure their technology ecosystem to make a more coherent data set that can be activated through, again, the design and the media components that are levers that we're relying upon to build a relationship with customers. So the trading desk is about the execution of the buying and the technology and building an understanding of the data ecosystem to make that as coherent and fluid as possible. But then within the agency, there's also the strategy and the planning, implementational planning teams. And again, the responsibility of that team is to understand the goal that the client has, the budget that the client has available, and to put together a recommendation that tries to deliver against that as efficiently as possible with the available resources of people, specialists, budget, of course.
And do you see the trading desks getting closer and closer in nature to sort of a demand and a sell side type of platform. And ultimately, there's some trading desks out there that own the inventory. And so I guess what I'm getting at here is that, and we'll come to Gerhard in a minute to see what he thinks as the client, but it is quite a difficult market to understand, and the agency trading desks don't necessarily help clarify the distinctions between the buyers and the sellers and how the market trades. Is that a fair point?
I think there's certainly a lack of clarity. I think it originates in the fact that the agency business model is different in many countries. So in some countries, there is a heritage of the media agency acting as principal, and in other markets, the agency is simply an agent representative. So there is a lack of consistency because of the heritage of agency remuneration models. I can only speak from an Aegis perspective. I can't tell you how other trading desks are operating, but again, the Aegis position is to be technology agnostic, and to not take any claim of ownership around the data, and the remuneration structures around the media will vary by client and individual discussion.
Okay, look, thank you very much. And look, Gerhard, I know I don't want to sort of get too sarcastic about it, but what I'm trying to sort of illuminate in this discussion, there's lots of suppliers in this programmatic space. The theme of this discussion is whether programmatic could ever be 50% of digital advertising spend, and by implication 50% of the entire.
25 by 2016.
I've never known you to lack ambition.
That's Steve King at your conference at the Festival of Media who quoted that.
Well, a far better source than the Cannes Lions. Right, but from a client point of view, you're first of all, just give us a picture of how much budget as a percentage you're spending in digital, how much of that goes through programmatic, and how do you see the market and the interaction of these players?
Well, I think the expression clear as mud comes to mind. And I think the panel so far has really illustrated that extremely well, how complex this world is. It's really very difficult for lots of clients to understand, especially since most of us and most of them come from a different world, come from a traditional world. So I would say it is a long, long journey, and we've only just begun. Is 50% doable? Absolutely. When? Well, I won't say anything about that, but certainly not within the next 2 or 3 years. I think it will take much longer. And I think one of the main issues, and it's already come up, is relevance, it's clarity, it's transparency, it's where's my money going, who's doing what with my money, where's it ending up, what about the consumers, how are they feeling about it, and are we reaching them in the right way?
In theory, the programmatic marketplace and the huge efficiencies that it offers, when you think back of advertising and IOs being faxed all those years ago, actually still in some markets it still happens. Yeah. But the promise of programmatic, I suppose, is probably quite a delicious one for an advertiser, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think the whole trend towards automation generally, not just in terms of programmatic buying, but the concept of automation, doing things more efficiently, and therefore also getting more bang for your buck. I think that is a huge promise, and I think we're underplaying that this is not just about buying and selling of media, that there's a lot more to it. Data, I think one of the other panelists mentioned that is really what it's about in the end, and I think all of us have done a very, very bad job at selling this whole thing.
But more than most, you're also a data manager as a company. So you're both, in a way, both buyer and seller, unlike maybe an FMCG that's defines themselves more as a content business. You're far more in that data space. So do you find that you're working with these companies, and are you finding that programmatic is giving you a chance to really understand your own metrics better?
Well, I think it's a journey also for us because, as a very large organization with millions and millions of customers, of course, we have a lot of data in our systems. But they are in the systems, and they are not really at this point in, the match between our systems and the systems that these guys offer aren't that great and aren't really set up to communicate with each other and to make the most out of data. And I think that's definitely where we're going. So let's say first-party data, our own data are wholly to us, So we're not going to give that out, but it needs to be integrated with the data that is out there and the data that is generated by consumers. And that's very complicated. Tech stack, it's called digital blueprint. There's so many words for it. And on paper it looks great, and on PowerPoint even better. But how to make it happen, that's a real challenge I would say, for everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got some insights now into how you fit together, some interesting issues in terms of the definition and how the agencies are playing it, particularly when it comes to Aegis, and a sense from the advertiser that although this market is complicated, it's still early. The promise of programmatic is driving your interest, and that ultimately will drive the growth of the medium. So if you can call it a medium. So I guess the question in the time we have, because we have a big panel and there's so many things that we could discuss. So I'm going to ask a general question of you all. The theme here is how we're going to grow programmatic together as an industry. I'd like you to give me an insight into what is the biggest barrier to growth in your business and the industry as a whole, in a very quick one-liner, and then give us some insight here of how you would tackle that barrier, whether it's cookie deletion, cross-platform issues, transparency, privacy, all these issues. Let's see if we can try and pick one. And the rule is, okay, and I'm going to start with Nigel. The rule for this question is, if Nigel says it's privacy, even if you think it's privacy, you're not allowed to say his one. You can't say, I agree with him. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 of us, so I want to get through 5 barriers to the growth of the industry and of your business and how you would tackle it, okay? And Eric, you have the hardest task, okay? Because you're going to be last. But you're also the most quick-witted of all of us, so that's why I've done it. That's nothing to do with you, Nigel.
Thank you very much. I'll go first then, Charlie.
Nigel Gilbert.
You're going to have to remind me of the question again, Charlie. I don't know. I can't remember what you want us to do here. You want a one-liner about the biggest challenge to growth in the industry, followed by how we're going to tackle it.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I don't know if going first is, again, a curse or a blessing. I think that I would suggest that the biggest barrier to growth today that we see, based on the fact that I fully believe the technology is already there, is the understanding of the business models and the marketplaces within programmatic that our customers have. And now I get to talk about how we're going to address that.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So what we would suggest that the lack of understanding in business models looks like, and how that intersects with marketplaces. The best way I can describe it is everybody thinks today that programmatic is an auction marketplace. So you have buyers will come in and they will bid on inventory, and then they will expect to hit CPA goals. Biggest confusion here is a CPA campaign or a cost per performance campaign is actually a seller-led objective. That is a performance marketplace that has existed for decades. Now in that marketplace, the seller has control, not the buyer. Buyer wants to use data and they want to buy on a CPA. Those two things don't align with the kind of inventory that people want to buy and the way that the seller wants to exercise a level of control to hit a goal. So what we have is buyers confusing the two. So if they want to adopt a performance marketplace, they should be aggregating inventory and running campaigns on their own inventory. That's okay, that's how performance works. If they want to bid on inventory using data, they should be prepared to accept the fact that the seller wants a higher level of control, and the seller is happy to pass a level of visibility back to the buyer. Then you move across to deals and guaranteed, where it's much more collaborative. And again, I think that's where the business models comes in that I mentioned before, where one would hope that the buyers and sellers can understand that there is a genuine collaboration and they need to be able to work much more closely together in order for that to be the next area of growth. The next $1 billion, $2 billion in programmatic does not come from auction or performance.
Okay. Very good point. Happy bonus. I'm going to make you second. Do you agree with that, and what do you think is the biggest challenge to the industry?
Yeah, I agree with Nigel. I think I said I agree with his point, mate. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Okay, and then I'm going to make my point. Is that all right? Okay, good. It's, we talk to clients, and it's understanding the space. It's Jared, you're unique. You've been in the space, but a lot of clients don't even know, for instance, that they're using agency trading desks necessarily because they're not up to speed or up to scratch on it, and that needs to be a collaboration amongst the industry so everyone understands all the players, the ecosystem, where everyone fits within that ecosystem to help scale growth. So education for the clients, direct clients. Not just agencies are switched on this space, but actually direct to the CMOs. So what is Exchange Lab doing about that? I think that's, you know, in order to educate, we need to run more campaigns across more different technology silos and platforms that actually show, you know, demonstrate the value of the space. So actually drive profit for clients and make a huge impact. And once that hits, then it scales because it's all automated. And you know, being able to scale means being able to reach all the different platforms within the ecosystem to actually drive campaigns across the board.
I like that. That's a true entrepreneurial answer. The way to tackle the problem is for you to win more business. Are we going to go back and forth? We're gonna. I'm just. Yes. Anthony, cookie deletion. Big problem?
I don't think it's a big problem. I think that a lot of performance campaigns are running, and their cookie window is much shorter, and deletion tends to be more of a medium-term issue. I haven't seen statistics recently, but I seem to recall that there's about 20% historically of people that delete cookies, but they delete them very persistently, so it looks like half of cookies are deleted, but it's really only a minority of people that are deleting them. However, the issue is more, I think, about whether or not cookies are going to be meaningful at all moving forward. Obviously, there are certain browser controls. There are increasingly large but distinct walled gardens of data that are not enabling third-party cookies. And also we have increasingly, you know, half of searches will be on mobile devices this year. I think in excess of 40% of YouTube consumption is on mobile devices. If you look at the statistics about where people are using mobile devices for searching and things like that, it's in the work in the home. People are preferring to go to the devices that are labeled as mobile, and that's a different conversation, but essentially it's an operating system and device distinction rather than a location distinction. So cookies need to be reconsidered as the environment for which we're capturing data. The accuracy of device ID, device fingerprinting, is not yet where it needs to be a persistent variable, even within a short time window that cookies have historically been able to work. So I think the issue is really about what happens if we hit a wall when we haven't found an alternative to cookies by the time they cease to be meaningful enough.
So what in your opinion then is the biggest challenge facing the businesses of these folks sitting here in this wonderful little cabana this morning?
Nigel put it very well, that ultimately the gatekeepers of the opportunity are the publishers. They decide what inventory is made available and on what basis. It continues from the last question. The biggest opportunity, the biggest revenue gap in the publisher is the monetization of inventory on mobile devices. That's where they're seeing a significantly lower yield profile and getting to a significant minority, not too far away, a majority of their inventory that is in that context. And I don't know, I'll hypothesize. I'm guessing that if the direct sales team yield is 100%, I'd be surprised if many people are getting a mobile yield even close to 30%. So that's the huge gap of monetization that is going to force change. So this group of people will have to work out how to respond to make the publishers understand that programmatic is the way to bring monetization value to that massive amount of inventory that's not in line with where it needs to be to cover the cost of content generation. And I'm hoping that video is the answer for us in the medium to short term. And I think Facebook's move to bring a viable video product into their massive inventory, only launched in the US at the moment, but rolling out, I think could well be a watershed moment for putting mobile devices and video content at scale within a closed programmatic ecosystem at the moment, but one that I hope will open.
Thank you very much. Eric, you're not going to be last. Your biggest threat, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, I think it is the concept of identity. That is to say, not an existential question, but a technical question with respect to the that's right, the persistent identification of users across more and more opportunities for marketers to get their messages in front of those consumers. Where we started the business 6 years ago, this was a display game, and it was a remnant display game at that. It is vastly more interesting today. It is vastly more scalable today. It presents many more challenges from the core concept of identity, and it is from that thing that we gain targeting, that we gain the opportunity for richer experiences, as Anthony was describing, with respect to what you do with users, when they come to your properties, for example, it has huge impact on the actuality and concept of ROI. So if you are seeing more activity, if you're able to better associate your spend with ROI, you're going to make more and more investment in those vehicles, assuming that ROI is positive. And so, I think going forward, and the catalyst for this is mobile, where identity is I think the biggest issue facing that. But it is just a catalyst. It is a catalyst to say, and a jumping off point to say, there is attribution, there are analytics that we perform as a business to understand marketing ROI. What we are doing as a business, conveniently, we made an acquisition earlier this year of a wonderful French technology that focuses on this precise issue, and that has gone into the creation of what we call a connected ID. And initially, that is an understanding of the user with the further understanding that we will federate that concept of the user across many, many partners in the ecosystem, and reciprocally understand from them what identity means to them, right? So that is sort of step one. The next is true cross-device understanding, so that marketers actually can fulfill on the promise of an operating system on which they rely to market to consumers.
Are you encouraged listening to this? Tell me more.
Absolutely. I think, excuse me, I think the panel really addressed a lot of the issues that we're facing, and I think one of them I'd like to add as well is transparency, transparency of the value chain. I think for a lot of marketers, it's very unclear where their money's going, who's making what off it. I think there's been a lot written about it in the last few weeks. And I think it's fine if we know where it is, but we don't know. That's the problem. So how much are these guys making off it? Where's the rest of the money going? How much are the publishers getting? And I don't think it's a case of saying, well, you guys aren't worth 15% or 12%. I just think it's a case of we need to know exactly what these guys and the rest make. So I think transparency of the value chain for marketers will help a lot to promote investment.
Anthony mentioned, how video may change. I was talking to a large multimedia and out-of-home business here who realised that they need to get up to speed with programmatic, or else if they don't get up to speed in the next 6 months, they could be way behind the curve. So you have a future here where TVs, even digital out-of-homes, signage and so on, could all be connected into the grid, could all be part of the programmatic future. So presumably as a marketer, you just have to really start to learn very quickly, and how you're moving from the old days of cost per click to now cost per engagement, cost per acquisition, to a cost per conversion. We could be facing a future here in the industry where the whole issue of half the money is being wasted, which was the old quote attributed to Lord Leverhulme and various different people. Was it Wanamaker as well? That could be a thing of the past. How long do you think that might be before we start to see signs of a true connected media buy, where you can start to really understand in real time the impact of your communication on picking up clients and customers?
I just want to add one other point, and that is that the digital channel and channels, even if we talk about digital radio or digital outdoor and TV, is not just about sales. I think we shouldn't forget that there's a very big piece that we as marketers feel very passionate about. It's about brand building, it's about image, and I think programmatic can also and should play a large role also in achieving those goals. I think one of the other challenges that we have, that when we talk about programmatic, we often so easily jump to conversion, to cost per acquisition, etc. So yes, sales are important, and depending on what business you have, the more or less important it is. But we also should look at the beginning of the customer decision journey and see how does the digital channels work, engagement, how do we get people to engage, and that's also part of the programmatic challenge. But just to answer your question, I think it is going to happen much quicker than we think. It is already happening. Our approach is to try and learn, just do pilots. All the countries are starting off small pilots, learning small budgets, but learning as much as they can, and I'm sure it will just grow.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give the last signing off word to our host, Mr. James Aiken, what do you think about what you've heard, and what are your just general reflections on the conversation today?
Well, I'm very pleased, Charlie, to have everyone here, and it's a great panel and a lot of a good diversification across the ecosystem, and hearing it from, you know, supply from the publisher side to the decision making and what inventory becomes biddable, from the AppNexus view to MediaMath, that, you know, cross conversion, multi-device, really relevant right now. 60% of decisions, buying decisions happen on smartphones. We have to be there. Right now we geo-target, buy inventory on smartphones, and most of the transactions happen through PC devices. But again, it's really interesting to hear you guys are working towards that. We want to understand that the conversions that marketers use today are based on 1999 technology, DoubleClick and Atlas. You know, they based it on cookie technology, once a clicker, always a clicker, last ad seen, frequency of ads. That's not relevant now. I mean, because the users are consuming differently. And for marketers, the challenge is actually going out and being able to scale advertising campaigns, which they were able to do when they just bought TV, and now they want to be able to do. All the users are consuming smartphones, so you got to move there. So, you know, working with partners like MediaMath, and as more partners bring biddable mobile inventory online is great. Agencies play a crucial role. More than ever today, advertisers need their agencies because of the transformation from 4% of global ad spend was spent programmatically in 2013. It's going to be 25% by 2016, end of 2016. That's a $12 billion industry going to a $125 billion industry. So guys, on the agency side, helping your clients navigate that is crucial. So I'm really pleased to have everyone here. And Charlie, I'm looking forward to the Festival of Media.
Thank you very much.
You know,
thank you very much for the advertisement.
It's nice to be
bought unprogrammatically. It's very nice, but Rome is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Thank you. Allow me to sign off, because I get the sense here that we're talking here about the power of change. The advertising industry is inherently conservative, but we all understand that change is about to happen very rapidly. It's already occurring. And I think there's something quite unusual. We find it sometimes very hard to understand the power of exponential division. And you've just said there's an exponential change emerging. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to get our heads around that, indeed for human beings to really understand it. And I just wondered, just as a little sign-off thought for you all here on this wonderful Cannes Day, has anyone heard of the little story of the magic pipette? Okay, so this is my signing off story for you now, okay? I had a few drinks this morning. I'd like you to all imagine a little pipette, okay? Little scientific pipette that drops water, but does it exponentially. 1 little drop, 2 little drops, 4 little drops, okay? And it does that every minute. 1 drop, the next minute 2 drops, the third minute 4 drops, okay? Are you imagining this little magical pipette? Imagine that pipette is in a stadium, maybe Madison Square Garden or Wembley Stadium, okay? Imagine, for the sake of my little story, that it's a waterproof stadium, okay? And you're sitting there alone on the very, very top of the stadium in the seats right up, okay, where the lights are, looking down on the field on this little pipette, okay? And I've strapped you into your chair. You can't escape. Now, tell me, how long does it take before you drown? In a massive stadium with our magic pipette, once a minute, dropping little drops exponentially, ladies and gentlemen. How long have you got? It's pretty good. Most people would say a few days, yeah? So hard to imagine. It's a huge, vast space. It takes 49 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. And what's interesting, okay, is that at 45 minutes, you're sitting there, you're looking there, you think this is cool, no worries. 45 minutes, the stadium's half full. it takes a further 2 minutes for you to be drowned. Ladies and gentlemen and viewers, if your clients and your media buyers running budgets, you're sitting in the top of that stadium. Unbuckle your belts. Do something about it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your help. Cheers, man. Cheers, buddy.